Hey kids, join the club. Get the all-new CCXCC t-shirt made with 100% mutant power. Be like these cool kids. Get it now on dinobeast.com and chrisandersoncomics.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Chris Claremont X-Men Comic Club. I'm here as always, with my co-host John Coates. How you doing, John?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, Chris. I'm ready to go searching for Mutant X.
Oh man! And again this week we are joined by it's not the other Coates brother, but that's not the right way to say it. But James, how you doing, man?
I'm good.
How you doing down there? It's like the Brady Bunch, right?
Yeah. Hey, I'm good, guys. Good.
Sweet. We are on issue 126. When we last left off, Polaris had just discovered that the rest of the X-Men were alive. The rest of the X-Men had just found out that Jean and Hank were alive. It's been a long time coming, and there were a lot of screams being heard and felt, and something is amiss on Muir Island. And now the bulk of the X-Men are in hot pursuit to go find out what's going on.
That is right. And we start things off with a Dave Cockrum cover.
I love that he's still at least doing the covers of all these, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting too that he's done so many of the covers so far during the John Byrne run.
Well, I bet you part of that is because John Byrne doesn't have time. If you look at the amount of covers and work he's doing, so right now, while this issue comes out, John Byrne has 3 full Marvel comics out in October of 1979.
Oh, really?
This, Avengers, and Fantastic Four are all penciled by John Byrne with covers on some other stuff.
Jeez, what a madman.
So, I could see where he might be. Oh, yeah, Cockrum wants to do some covers? Sure.
Yeah. What does he think? He's Kirby?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, he's not. We'll get into that.
Oh, man, you're going to light this place on fire today?
Well, it's something I think needs to be talked about with John Byrne.
Sure.
So we'll get it.
Okay.
Ooh, it's gonna get spicy. So just like last time, our credits box is broken down a little further than we've seen in a while. Claremont is the author, Byrne penciler, Austin on inks, and our usual Orzechowski and Glynis Ween letters and colors. And then our editors, Roger Stern, and then Jim Shooter. And kind of like the last one, I think this issue also touches on like a lot of things, kind of bounces back and forth. So maybe that's the reason why it's not a co-plotted issue, by the two of them.
Yeah, that's the guess.
And
that's a really great first image too. You can feel the urgency of that jet flying over their head. And I think it has to do with the people in the foreground kind of ducking out of the way.
Yeah. It's a good storytelling page. Like it's not like super exciting, but it really pulls you in right away.
Yeah, it's a great first drop you into the story.
Yeah.
He's doing some interesting technique with those clouds and those wisps too.
Yeah, and like the wave, like the spray of the ocean here, it's like very
and the clouds. Yeah, I'm not sure how he's achieving that, but it's neat looking.
Yeah, I appreciate the green waves.
Yeah,
that of course is our Blackbird jet with our X-Men. On their way to Muir Island, and we get a nice shot here of them in the cockpit, in costume, and Cyclops is letting us know we're almost there. Action stations, everybody. And we open up with like a nice little Colossus moment where he's the first one to drop in, and he just jumps out of the airplane, goes full metal, and just busts right through the ceiling and through the floor when he lands.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, not hitting anybody.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
You know, they didn't check ahead there. And then here comes Storm blasting in, carrying Wolverine, and like, he's like telling her to take it easy, will you? You left my stomach back on the flaming plane. Classic. And then we get a Nightcrawler with this great teleportation panel here, where it's like starts in the cockpit of the jet, and boom, now he's inside the house.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that one. And then here comes Banshee, who, you know, he can't fly because he doesn't have his sonic scream anymore. So he's got to just sort of walk with Cyclops. And basically, Cyclops lets us know it's been an hour since the last issue. It was an hour ago when they talked on the phone.
Okay. They made it there in record time. That's some Concorde speed right there.
Yep. So good. You know, the action's moving right off the bat. So it's really good. You know, fast. Get them into the situation. And here we go. We find here's Polaris, all sort of unconscious, and they turn over this body that's on top of her. And here's our mummified Angus McWhirter.
Oh man, they found the wallet on him.
Mm-hmm. Creepy. He draws a good. That's a good sort of zombified, petrified head there.
Yeah, it's some good beef jerky.
Banshee checks her out, says, you know, hey, she's just in shock. It's okay. And now Nightcrawler's going to go check sort of the lab.
Yeah, that's a great Bamf. But his okay fingers is cracking me up. The proportion looks really weird. It looks like Mickey Mouse hands.
Yeah, because he's only got 3 fingers.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay.
And they're also like massive for the head size, you know.
Mm-hmm. And here comes Cyclops. Like he's like, all right, you know, Banshee's gonna stay with her, and so now they're off. He's off running, and once again, Cyclops is thinking to himself, the Banshee's powers show no signs of regenerating.
Oh no!
So it's been a few issues here. We've kind of seen some of the X-Men worrying in their heads.
Yeah.
About Banshee, and they just keep bringing it up.
Yeah.
His color scheme doesn't really work anyway, so may as well get him out of there, right?
Can't. And here goes Nightcrawler climbing on the ceiling in the lab, but he gets sort of zapped by Havoc. And then here we get one of these great Nightcrawler in the shadows, and it's this sort of a gradient.
Yeah, some screen tone, zipatone
there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Nightcrawler still has his ability where he's almost invisible in deep shadows.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why Havoc was shooting at him.
Love it.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden he gets hugged from behind by Colossus. And this is great. Look at him just like powering up, trying to like take out whoever's attacking him. And then he turns around and it's just like, he's like, friend Havoc, it's good to see you again. Yeah. So the X-Men are finally reconnecting with their sort of lost friends.
Yep.
What do you think of that opening? This whole little opening sequence here.
This part I like. Like it feels like the continuation of the last issue, almost like the wrap up of it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Really tying up some of, like we talked about last issue was a really good issue where they are doing all these different plot lines, bringing them together, just starting to introduce Proteus and Dark Phoenix. So this part of the book feels really good, like it's part of that other story, kind of.
Yep.
And now we elsewhere, we're going to cut over to Storm and Cyclops. And here's this shadowy figure approaching, and Storm uses her wind and whips it around the corner. And oh, what do you know? It's Moira.
Boink.
Yeah.
Why, hello there.
And she's like, "Oh, you're no idea how glad I am to see you." And is Banshee? And he's like, "Yeah, he's here." And now she's telling him Mutant X has escaped. And Cyclops runs off to find Jean. And everyone's going to gather at Moira's house. And finally, here we go. The reunion. Issues in the making. Cyclops and Jean. But she's kind of knocked out, in shock. And she starts to come to, and what do you know? Who does she see? Not Cyclops, but Mr. Jason Wingard.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's because he's got that like Lemmy mustache thing going.
That's
like,
right.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat.
Yeah. If he was wearing like leather, he'd be like very like heavy metal.
Mm-hmm.
But he's wearing like clothes from the 1800s. So it's like not.
Not so much.
Yeah. And then, she calls him Jason, and then like Cyclops is like, Jason?
Yeah. Like, what the?
Oh, man.
Yeah. It's like, well, that is not what you want to hear.
Issues in the making, and this is what we get.
Uh-huh. And then finally, everybody's together in the house. Great scene. Everybody hanging out, having a nice hot beverage to recover. Here's our singular multiple man.
Mm-hmm. Singular man.
Yep. But we do get one panel finally where we see multiple man. So that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're finally using that. And he tells us that, he was searching the grounds too with his multiples. But like, one of his duplicates tried to attack Proteus. And then, like, he felt the pain of what happened to his duplicate. Yeah. Good stuff. Good setting here. I like that,
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, and Multiple Man is like, he's all tore up because he couldn't stop Mutant X. And Moira tells him, I doubt anything human can stop him. And it's like, ooh, that's ominous. That's not good.
Yeah, I don't know why at this point she's not like explaining to everybody what he is.
Yeah, she's like, at this point, like, they're all together. People have been attacked. They've found dead bodies, and she's still keeping it close to the vest. She's still...
Yeah. Until, Cyclops has to force her and be like, no, you're not. You're telling us right now what's going on.
Yeah. And, like, Wolverine wants to run off, and Cyclops is like, no, you're not going anywhere. And he's like, are you scared? And he's like, yeah, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Basically, like, Multiple Man held off the Fantastic Four by himself, but Mutant X beat him easily. So we got to think this through. And then Wolverine just slashes her table in her house. Like, that's kind of a dick move.
Yeah, it is.
But Cyclops is like, hey, I checked the files, but there's nothing on Mutant X. And she's like, it's a private matter, Scott. And he's like, was a private matter.
That's right.
Yeah, he's killed. He's going to kill again. And here we go. She's like, it was too late the day he was born. Who's Mutant X, Moira? He's my son.
Dun, bum, bum.
What?
Yeah.
Next
Good
you're gonna
lead
tell
up.
me that Darth Vader's Luke's father.
Yep. And so that's
Wait,
why,
what?
last issue she made some comments about how she dared to not have any kids because she had one kid and turned out to be a freaking monster.
Man, roll of the dice, I tell you.
Yeah, good reveal. Good reveal. It's always great having like a villain that has some sort of family connection to a hero in some way,
Yeah.
And here we get to a few hours away from where they're at. Basically, now here's our Mutant X multiple man. And you can see by his sort of like evil look on his face.
Yeah.
But already he's like, I hunger. I'm consuming this shell too quickly. Must find a replacement. So he's just burning through bodies.
So he's able to hang on to that multiple, huh? That's interesting.
Yeah. But here's an interesting little thing. So he's hiding out. He wants another body to sort of take over. And here comes our man, Jason Wingard, out of this inn. And he's basically walking right down this alley right by Mutant X. And so it's like, uh-oh. But then Mutant X, he's like, it can't be. He has some kind of psychic shield blunting my attack. I'm too weak to get through it. I have to let him go. So like, look at that. Wingard's so powerful that even the Mutant X can't possess him.
Yeah. Mutant X is you thought Mutant X was powerful.
Yeah, and now all of a sudden, like, this weird creeper stalker guy is even more powerful. But hey, luckily for Mutant X, we're gonna get some drunk Doc Hands guy walking down the street, and boom, he gets got. Gets got. Look at that. So now the X-Men are all as a team, they're out on the hunt trying to find this guy. And their little Cerebro computers won't pick him up. So that's kind of useless. So they're just kind of driving around, looking for dead bodies to like use to like trail this guy, to trail Mutant X down.
It's an Easter egg hunt.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're like looking, they're like, they're keeping an eye on the radio. If any more mummies pop up, Madrox is going to let them know. And Moira kind of lets Cyclops know, like, he was a great kid, but then his mutant power kicked in and changed him. And, I've been trying to find a cure, but I just straight up failed. Like, I can't find it. There's no cure for this guy. But he has two weaknesses: that he has to get new host bodies and metal. He can't stand non-organic materials. So metal can imprison him or destroy him.
Dang.
Luckily, the X-Men have a couple of sort of metal guys.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
On the team. So here we cut over to Jean. She seems to be fully energized again, flying around on the search. But what do you know? Our stalker Wingard is watching her through the Beanox here. I like that. It's getting to see her through the two.
Yeah, it's a good shot.
Yeah.
Through the Beanox, And he's like he's close enough to her that like all of a sudden he uses his powers that he's got going on, And now Jean once again thinks she's in the 1800s and she's on a hunt,
like a fox hunt, right?
Yeah.
Or a deer hunt.
Yeah.
Look at, I like how her like top hat is like wrapped in a scarf to keep it on her head.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, her mind powers are so weak. I don't even know how close he needs to be.
Right.
Like anything can just take over Jean Grey. So,
well, it definitely seems like Wingard can.
Yeah.
Like he's got some hooks in there deep. And like he can just do whatever he wants already.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we know how powerful he is, right?
Yeah.
And the hunt, like she sees like the dogs attacking the deer, and Wingard's like, I'll deal with it. And he starts like just like hitting the dogs to get them back. And then he's giving Jean a knife to sort of make the kill because she ran the deer down.
Check out that bone handle.
Yeah. That's pretty sweet. And she's like, oh, yes. And then she looks down and it's not a deer. It's a man with antlers on.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And Wingard is saying, well, of course it's a man. Like you suggested it, that we use a man instead of a real deer.
Ooh.
And it's like, what the heck? And then all of a sudden, boom, it flips. And instead she's looking at one of Proteus's bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. She found an egg.
Yep. So like, oh, she found one. Yeah. So that's our next little Wingard messing with her mind interlude here. And now we're going to cut to our bros here, Wolverine and Nightcrawler. And they're searching, and there's like this fog out, and all of a sudden there's this cop, and Wolverine's like, he's got the scent basically. He's like, he can scent Mutant X, and he's like, well, who said Mutant X couldn't zap a cop? And he's like, we got trouble, Nightcrawler. And here's where our Mutant X is going to try and get Wolverine. He's going to try and possess Wolverine's body. And so we can kind of see this little pink haze. It's like his powers. He's like reaching out to get him. And he like, Wolverine screams in his, as he's like in his head there, in his psyche. But then also, let's make sure we can see this. Mutant X has to stop because it was actually him that screamed, because he's like, metal. This X-Man's full of metal, alien, deadly to me. And right here, this panel on page 26 in the top, Wolverine says, it ain't just metal, sweetheart. I got a skeleton made of about $3 million worth of adamantium.
Boom. There we go.
So, right here, this panel is it's like 4 years and 11 months in the making. That's how long, like, basically Wolverine has been a creation. And now finally, that's the final piece of sort of what he becomes, like his full power set, that he has a metal skeleton.
Finally fully shaped. Yeah, the only thing we don't know about him is his origin at this point, but we've got all of his powers and stuff.
Yeah, so this is technically the first appearance of modern Wolverine.
Right.
Right here, this issue.
Yep.
Rocky.
Yep. So great. It's like a great reveal moment. Like maybe if they knew ahead, like, okay, we're gonna give him a metal skeleton, because they kind of dropped hints like, oh, his bones are tough to break.
Yeah.
Or he's tough to injure. They've kind of been seeding some thoughts. But then they know, like, well, if it's going to be metal, like, let's wait till our bad guy tries to possess him and we'll make metal one of his weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of fits in the story nice. And so here comes Nightcrawler with the Jeep to get his buddy out. And here we go, Mutant X. He's like, you call me Mutant X, but I have a better name. I am Proteus.
Ooh-wee.
So that's our first reveal of our Proteus's official villain name.
Which it's also where so this is where this issue kind of falls flat for me, and I think the second half of it is a dud. Like, we'll get into it after this next page, but I think they really dropped the ball, like making like the rest of it not that interesting to me. So
okay, well, let's get through this next page and then let's have some chats here, sir. So here is where we also get now Proteus has sort of another mutant ability other than being this weird energy vampire that mummifies people.
Yeah, and possesses bodies, right?
Yeah, like he can sort of like change reality. And so like he lashes out and all of a sudden like Wolverine and Nightcrawler are just like distorted, like the laws of order don't matter anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff looks great.
Yeah, it's fun. That's fun.
Yeah, this is really like a really cool ability they give him also. And like, it really looks good.
This is also some crazy stuff that, like, I don't know that you see John Byrne stretch out and do much beyond these Proteus issues. To do, you know, like
not cartooning in that way.
Yeah, right. Like really, look at Nightcrawler. Kind of is just like his body's falling apart. Like this is great right here. This middle panel with it's like so cartoony and like.
There was one other time where I think like Nightcrawler got his mind blasted and started seeing things sort of like this, and things were stretched out like this and cartoony. And I can't remember if it was Cockrum or Byrne who drew that one.
Yeah, like the couple moments from Byrne so far I can remember is like when Wolverine gets possessed by Sauron and he sees like some of the guys as demons.
Yeah,
and then there's like the arcade funhouse where there's those stretched out Wolverines that coming out of the mirror.
Yeah, but, I feel like it was something that happened in the Shi'ar episodes or issues.
Oh yeah, way back. So that would definitely be Cockrum stuff.
Well, that's where there was a foot in both doors, right?
Yeah, that's true. If it was the final issue, if it happened in the Crystal, then that would have been Byrne.
Yeah, actually, I think that's what it was. So that's probably the first time we see him do this weirdness.
Yeah, but he's like very good at it.
Yeah. It's really fun.
Because
I remember I was it for that issue? One of those issues I tried to do it for the thumbnail, and I was like, "Oh, this is harder than it looks."
Yeah. And Claremont really breaks it down nice for us here in this middle panel up here, explaining like how bad this is for Wolverine. Because like the Wolverine's whole reality is based on like his senses and the physical, like real world grounded physicality and sensing things. And like, that is like how he experiences the whole world. And like with this reality warping stuff, like all of that is completely out of the window. And like, he has just no idea what to do or what's going on. It's just like he just can't cope with it. And then finally, here comes Storm coming in to like try and help him out. And she's blasting her lightning. And it kind of stops Proteus. And then she like blasts the car. And then that explosion also starts to deteriorate his little cop body really heavily.
Pretty good maneuver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so he sort of throws up, like makes everything go weird, and like so she crashes into the ground and sort of sprains her arm. And she tries to like blast him with wind, but it's not doing anything, and he keeps coming. And she's like cooking up so much wind that like Wolverine pulls this great move. He like jams his claws in the ground to like hold him and Nightcrawler in place so they don't get blown away. And it looks like it's not going to be enough. And here comes Proteus in the wind coming at cool. Storm to take over her body. And that's where this issue ends for us. With the next issue, The Quality of Hatred.
What a title.
Ooh, that's a good one. That is a good one.
You got any good quality hatred?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So James, let's get into some
okay. So
Burn talk.
My big issue with this at the end, and kind of what happens in the next couple issues, I think is also why Proteus is a forgotten character. Like people don't really like the Proteus Saga. People don't rate it. They're all just what happened before and then Dark Phoenix. Like you skip over this chunk.
Right.
And that's because Proteus is the boringest designed villain like ever. There is no design. Like,
right, because he's just leaping from body to body, right?
And that's, I'm going to blame Byrne for a lot of it, but it could be, some of what Cochrom's writing. I give him that.
Sure.
But so you're going to have 4 issues where essentially the X-Men in their brightly colored outfits in a superhero comic are just fighting a bunch of British people. And then when we'll eventually see Proteus, there's nothing really there. It's just a bunch of colored lines.
Okay.
So it leads me to like a thing I've thought for a while, and it could be a personal opinion. John Byrne is an amazing artist, can draw the crap out of anything. Superhero makes everything look really good. Like everything looks really good. He's not a good character designer though.
I'll give you that one.
Like all the characters to this point, right? All this memorable stuff. These are Cockrum, Kirby. Like he's not like none of this stuff he's made.
Yeah.
Like they're not his characters. This is your chance to go like 2 pages before when he's like, you call me Mutant X. Like I'm Proteus. Like he should be like ripping out of that guy's skin. And there should be like a badass X-Men supervillain standing there. Some sort of suit he's created for himself out of like his powers, even a monster. Carpenter's Thing or something. Anything other than it's just a British guy, like bore me to death. Like this is the big reveal. Like the powers are great. You've built up for several issues how badass this guy is, right?
Yeah, that's
and
right.
You're like, oh my God, Mutant X. And even up to this point, I'm still on board. Like, oh man, he's inside these dudes' bodies. I'm like, here it comes. What is he actually like? And it's like, oh no, we're not actually going to get a villain. It's just, he's just going to jump between a bunch of like, British people's bodies, and that's it. And we're just going to show the X-Men floating around doing cool, like they're floating around doing stuff. And then we'll just have a regular guy standing there.
See, I don't mind the fact that he's like this force that jumps between bodies and stuff. And I kind of like that there's like, I like the drawing of the people that he is inhabiting too, because they're sort of these quasi zombie shriveled kind of people. And they look pretty terrifying. And I think I gotta reserve my judgment for when I finally see what his interpretation of what the energy thing looks like. Cause in my mind, it's got to be some sort of cool looking energy monster thing. And I haven't seen it yet. So,
we'll see. But this is like the part where I'm, you're reading other superhero books.
Yeah.
And the X-Men Rogues Gallery is like top 3.
Mhm.
It is amazing designs, heavy hitters. Like if you compare it to other rogue galleries in all of comics,
Yeah.
X-Men it's in the top 3 easily.
Yeah, for sure.
Then this is supposed to be the like up to this run in the Claremont run. They built this up as this guy, you know, he couldn't be contained, like he could destroy the world, all this stuff. And it's like you don't actually have a design for him, really.
I think that the only things that we've seen that Byrne has really gotten a chance to design were the Lords of Light characters, which were all very, very lame costumes, just people in tights with colors.
Yeah.
And then Alpha Flight, which again, I mean, Sasquatch is cool, but
he's the best one, and he's just a Sasquatch though. So,
and everybody else is just sort of like a lame bodysuit.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right.
And so right now in October of 79, so 4 books that are on the stands with this book. Amazing Spider-Man 197, the bad guy, he's finishing up a mega fight with the Kingpin, and then the next several issues is Mysterio. So way better. Thor, right? 287, it's in the middle of an Eternals saga where the Thor is with all of Kirby's Eternals characters fighting Celestials and the Destroyer, etc. Great villains. Okay. Then 2 other books John Byrne is penciling. The Avengers 188 comes out, right? And in that book, the bad guys are elementals that just look like piles of like poo, but like one's phosphorus, one's chlorine, one's whatever. They just look like mud people.
Okay.
Not cool. And Fantastic Four 211, also drawn by Byrne, which is this one, you look it up. As a Kirby fan, it makes me upset. The first appearance of Terax the Tamer, Byrne's supervillain he created, it's Darkseid with like a colorful outfit. It's straight up Darkseid.
Right.
So Byrne can draw.
Yep.
He's an amazing drawer, but as a character designer, blah. And if this book is on the stands and you're trying to get people to get your hooks into X-Men, like you're not, I don't know if I read this, I would pick up the next issue. If all I had was money for, you know, so many books, I'm probably buying the other books because these guys aren't fighting anybody.
Sure.
So that's
yeah. So I'll say 2 things. I'll say, I do think, like our Shadow King, Amal Farouk is a better design than Proteus.
That's right.
I mean, he at least being that sort of fat guy with the little fez hat and stuff, like there's some character to that design that you can recognize, and you know, and then he does his astral stuff. But other than that, like we were talking earlier, James, and about what are Byrne's best just designs.
Yeah.
Total. Definitely up to this point, it wasn't in X-Men, but Sabretooth is probably his best character design that we can think of. And that happens in
Sabretooth is just like a suit with some furry things on it. Yeah.
But it works, you know, and that was in his Iron Fist run pre-X-Men.
Yeah. Sasquatch is pretty great though.
Sasquatch is great. And I will say eventually I think Puck is great.
Yeah.
But you know, he's just a short guy with a P.
Again, it's just a bodysuit, right?
Yeah. And eventually in X-Men, before Byrne leaves the book, we will get Pyro.
Okay.
Of the Brotherhood, and I think Pyro might be his second best design.
I can only think of how Liefeld drew him. Is it very far off?
I mean, there's some differences.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's the thing, like,
but it's interesting.
After so then it's like Proteus, you're just drawing him as like a regular guy. then your next big bad guys, you're going into Dark Phoenix and Hellfire and whatever. Well, they're just white guys in old timey clothes.
Yeah, that's true.
So you know what I mean? Like, where are the villains? Like, where's the interest? And I get not everybody's going to create these amazing characters like Kirby and different people, like, you know what I mean?
Well,
Simonson. Like, you don't have to be, but like,
yeah,
it's a big, for me, it was a big letdown for how much they're ramping him up. Because, you know, the last issue I joked like, oh, I always think of Nimrod. Well, why do you think of Nimrod instead of Proteus? Because at least Nimrod's interesting looking.
Well, see, that's the thing, is he's missing the part of character design, which is the silhouette.
Yeah.
You know, everything is just a dude or a girl in a bodysuit, you know, the silhouette doesn't matter what you do to the inside of it.
You know, and like, if this was like a manga, if you did just something simple where the dude has like, anybody he's overtaken gets like these crazy like neck veins up to his head or something weird, that's at least interesting.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, it's hard to compare it to that because of the time, but yeah.
Like, I mean, and you know, maybe part of this is because he's drawing 3 monthly comics right now.
I'm sure he's stretched way thin.
You know,
I'm kind of doing that myself, and I'm stretched thin.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do give him breaks and Claremont breaks.
For sure.
Know? And I'm saying Byrne's an unbelievable artist. But
yeah, I mean, as much as we talk shit, you know, we still give them all props.
I mean, he's so good that I think, you know, you can go, hey, man, there's a little bit here. I don't know what's new with this. And it could be Claremont.
Could be.
But the way they're working, you would think if Byrne had this, you know, design that looked like Apocalypse or something and was like, hey, man, what if we did something like this?
You know, that's interesting. And Proteus is such a different kind of character than has really showed up to this point in X-Men, you know, because like we haven't seen like a physical form for him yet. All we've seen is he's like, you know, the pink energy, and you know, they're basically, you know, we're getting the idea that he's just like an energy creature, you know, he's just like, he might be just disembodied, just this energy mass.
Yeah.
That has to feed on other other life forms in order to really move around much, maybe, you know?
Yeah.
Because why does he need to take these bodies over? Like, if he can just live as the energy form, but it seems like maybe he can't,
right?
You know?
Right.
And so it's like it's a different kind of concept from, you know, any of the other villains who are very much like grounded, like I'm a regular guy or I'm a mutant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm Juggernaut, I'm Black Tom, I'm Magneto, even like Sauron is like, you know, I'm a guy, but then I turn into this pterodactyl monster. Like, it's all very, you know, they've got physical forms, but it's like, so it's like such a challenge probably.
Yeah. I mean, that part is
like, hey, it's not, you have to do this villain and he doesn't have a physical body.
Yeah. That part is interesting in the writing, where it's sort of like more of a force to be reckoned with than a individual to be reckoned with, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do kind of like that.
Yeah. And it's all, you know, personal preference. Cause like, I like all that stuff also.
I just can't wait to see what
I just
looks
want more of like an interesting reveal or something. Cause
yeah.
You know, the panel of him being a cop. No, I'm Proteus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, should we take a look at this classic?
Yeah.
Do you have something else to say about the issue itself?
Yeah, guys, what do you think of here? 126. I think it flows off of 125 really well. It finally gives us some answers about Mutant X and what Moira's been hiding. So it adds another layer to her character, which is really nice. Or sort of, if we start thinking of Moira as like the new professor,
yeah,
It's really great.
Yeah, it's as zip cars go, it's we've been winding it up for a while, and now this is the issue where the button is pressed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on our way. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see what the rest of it is. Designs aside.
Yeah. I mean, just my small nitpick aside, it was still a really good issue. And I like where they're going still.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the classic version. Now, this one is one that I actually owned. This was in my very beginning of my collection. I bought this, I think, off the stand.
Oh, dang!
1989 is when I would have been starting to buy comics, because the Batman movie machine was in everybody's brain at this point, and that's kind of what solidified things for me.
So when you say off a stand, point of clarification, 7-Eleven spinner rack?
That's a good question, because we did actually have a shop called Schindler's that was by my house that I would walk to in the Twin Cities suburbs. That was close enough for me to walk. And it did just have like baseball cards and comics and things like that. Oh, so I'm not sure if I bought it from there or Super America Gas is where the spinner rack was. Yeah. Probably, or like, I feel like even like Target and stuff had comics. You could grab.
They probably had a rack.
Yeah.
Target or Hills.
Yeah. So this is Steve Lytle cover. I love this cover, and I don't know if it's just nostalgia that makes me love it, but I think no, it's not. It is, I think, just really great draftsmanship here.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's like really weird too, like you're kind of confused if you just look at it. You're like, what's happening?
And in fact, I don't ever really remember reading the story. I just remember, but the cover is burned in my head, and I always just thought that they were underwater, actually. But they're not. It's reality being torn asunder. And let's see here. He does the interior cover here, which is Moira in the dark with some sort of like shading, which is kind of interesting.
And a gun, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like at a Terminator or something,
Yeah.
When's Terminator coming out? That's crazy.
And then here we go with Bolton's story. I think this is maybe Bolton's best artwork, because he gets to, every time that we see Bolton do a story, his quality or his style kind of changes up.
Yeah.
Right. And here he does all of it, everything, like all different styles, because the story calls for it. So we start out with sort of this, it's, shreds of humanity. And it's just more of that little fight that they had, where, Nightcrawler and Wolverine are getting sort of mind blasted, and here's his version of the cop, which is great. It's right on model with Burns, and Wolverine is really gonna, is like, get ready, Proteus. I'm going to rip your that smug face of yours and peel it to the bone. Love this cloud with this little weird cartoon thing in it too. It's like Alice the Goon or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, Wolverine, stop. And he's like, no, shut up, Nightcrawler. This guy's mine. And he's like, no, Wolverine, we're out of our limits here. He's too. He said, good, tougher the odds, better I like it. And he's like, God, Wolverine, please, it's no time to play tough. And then Proteus is like, oh, okay. He's like, what? And he's like, I'm not just a tough guy.
Look at that Wolverine on the top right page there.
Yeah.
Man, that's different than any of the other drawings on that spread.
Yeah, and to see his pupils too, right?
Yeah. It's like very, I don't know, European. It's very weird.
These first pages make me think of like a Vertigo comic, like it's an issue of Sandman or something.
Yeah, yeah. He's so goofy because as we've seen before, like he can do these like beautiful, elaborate drawings that are like perfect,
Yeah.
and then he can totally phone it in. And then where he meets it somewhere in the middle is even weirder than all of that. He's a fascinating artist.
Huh.
And you got this little version of Wolverine here that really reminds me of Mignola's version of Wolverine in Jungle Adventure for some reason.
Oh. Yeah.
Which is
yeah,
like one of my favorite books of all time. So he's like, he's like, oh, ha, 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 I can use that against you. I hit a raw nerve. You should never reveal such things, you stupid brute. Now I have a button to push. And he's like, Nightcrawler's like, Proteus, my friend is out of his mind. He's some sort of animal level right now. It's like, have a shred of humanity in you. Like, I don't think you can, I don't need your help, Nightcrawler. And he's like, ha, 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 ha. Well put, a shred of humanity. No, Nightcrawler, I haven't a shred, but Wolverine does. And so he starts to like really take him apart here. And this is great. I love this panel. And it talks about him just shattering, and it just describes, and Nesenti wrote the script, by the way, again. And she really starts describing the way he feels as it goes through, and he's crashing to the ground. And he just dries him out and leaves him as a husk. And look at that drawing of him.
That's insane.
Isn't that crazy? I love that. Like, so weird. And they're breaking apart reality, and now he imagines himself as this spider with eggs, and he starts like losing it and saying like, spider with eggs, spider and eggs, spider and eggs for breakfast, spider and eggs for breakfast. So he starts just really like losing his marbles. This is such a cool drawing.
Amazing.
And, he's taking him apart even more. Like, Penny for your thoughts. And he's like, closer, closer. I'm close enough. He says, to what? And then he starts really like shaking up here, like this big eye. And like, he's just losing it. I love it. And then boom, look at that.
Ooh. What?
He just makes him feel like garbage, and just like a rotted husk, and his eyes coming out. Oh man, that's so good.
This is like a jam comic where like different artists did like a different page, but it's like all him.
Yeah. He's really showing off all the weirdness that he can do. He's just he's fascinating. And then, simple, as detailed as this is, he goes as simple as you can be, and then turns him into this like rubber toy, squeak toy, and Wolverine's getting closer, and he's like, hey, he's getting closer. He's like, he keeps taking steps. I'm here, Proteus, I made it. And he's like, no. And he starts slashing himself, and he's like, gotcha, and claws him. And he's like, I'll destroy you. He's like, do your best. I didn't like being called a tough guy. I had to find something out. I'm not just a tough guy. It goes all the way to the core, and it's called courage. Do your best. You can't hurt me now. So he found his courage, and now Proteus has nothing to warp on him, because not only is he tough, he's also courageous. The end. So that's where they end that, and this is before Storm kind of swoops in, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah, so he got a claw in on Proteus, which wasn't supposed to happen. So that's a wild one.
That's a really good addition too, though.
And then here's the back, and I always loved this one too. So yeah, they just like take this moment that we were having. We got the full moment, but she went a little deeper on it, and gave Bolton a chance to draw just wild stuff. So yeah, I really like that one. So all right.
Yeah.
So that is 126 of Uncanny X-Men.
There it is.
And,
yeah. Final thoughts, James?
Again, I still like what they're doing, like the way Claremont is building in all these things. My small nitpick about wanting more of a superhero like villain look. Aside, like I still like Proteus's powers, the way they built him up, where they're going with him.
Mhm.
So I'm looking forward to the next issue.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to see where this is going.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, you know where to find us on all the stuff, and I guess there's nothing left to say except for until next time, everybody.
Yeah. Be excellent, guys.
Be excellent. Later.
Check out dinobeast.com for all things John Coates like Dino Beast, Ninja 4, M.L.F, Berserker, and more. ChrisAndersonComics.com is where it's at for books like Chaotic Neutral, Spectral, A Showcase of Fear, Lost Angels, and more, plus apparel and original art. Also a link to Patreon where you can read Three-Headed Pig Man now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. We'll see you next time on the Chris Claremont X-Men Comic Club.